Okay, so let's do this one last time. The issue is just that I haven't really prepared anything. I didn't want to prepare anything because I wanted to make this off the cuff, and since I have so many thoughts in my head, I just wanted to get them out. But the issue is when I just want to get them out, they don't come out in the right order. But I'm gonna try to keep it focused, and I'm actually gonna try to keep this noticeably more compact than I did in my earlier attempts, because those videos would have all ended up at around 20 minutes and I don't want that. So the plan of this video is to talk about the newly recently announced flagship phones of 2019. Also to analyze those a little bit, speculate what will be coming as well in the next few months, and as a little bit of a goodie, I'm gonna let you know why I quit Twitter. But the main premise is also to answer one question: which is gonna be my biggest contender for my daily driver flagship of this year, because I'm this year once again on the market for a new phone and I wanted to kind of discuss with you, so let me know that in the comments which one that should be. So starting off this whole part is the Xiaomi Mi 9 and my one sentence summary: yay! Meh. What do I mean? Well, yay because it's a flagship for a great price, but meh because it's once again something that Xiaomi knows to do best. It's a non-all-in phone, but that's what I finally want, and that's the main premise for this video. Kind of the thing that you will hear me saying all the time. Good enough. But this year, good enough is not good enough for me anymore. If I'm gonna pay 600 euros upwards for a new flagship phone, I want it to be pretty much the best for my needs. And the Xiaomi Mi 9 is not gonna be that, because it makes sacrifice, and I'm just gonna keep this really short. Display is the one thing. It will be once again just a 1080p display. Not even the brightest from what I've seen, with only 430 nits, which is not that bright, which kind of leads me to believe that it won't be a super high quality display. But as good as it might be as a 1080p display, sorry, I mean, I get it. A lot of people always say 1080p is more than good enough. I mean, you sacrifice on performance, on battery life, if you go for a high res display, and I don't usually see the high res. Well, I personally do see the higher res. I appreciate it. I want it by now because I'm sick of using a 1080p for the 7th year in a row or something like that, with actually an S10, which was already back then a Quad HD display in a row. So I want Quad HD this year, or if I would have to go for 1080p, it at least has to be a higher refresh rate display, like 120, but none of that is really gonna happen. So Quad HD is the way to go for me, and therefore already the Mi 9 is out of the question, which also is along with thing before its speaker. Bottom firing speaker. Good enough. Not good enough for me anymore. I mean, no. I mean, when already on the Mi 6 we had a dual speaker system, and we on the Mi 8 went back to a bottom firing one, and it seems to be once again that thing on the Mi 9, which is already pretty much on the go for me as a review unit. I want more. Build quality will be absolutely top. I like the design. Teardrop notch is great. Best solution in my opinion. The software will be fine. I mean, some like MIUI, some don't like it so much, but it's totally fine software. And then there is the camera that actually is gonna be definitely more than good enough. But it's once again I'm absolutely sure of that. It will be a very, very good camera, but not the best of the best camera like Samsung does, even Sony, or the iPhone, or Google. It won't be that. I mean, for example, DxO Mark, I don't care what those guys as a final result tell me, but it says it's better than all the iPhones. I mean, seriously, this phone, there is no chance. I'm gonna give it 0% chance that this is gonna be better in terms of a camera than an iPhone. Maybe in low light, but definitely not for general pics, especially not for ease of use, and definitely not for video, because the iPhone there is pretty much the gold standard, and definitely not for the microphone, because I guess most of you know that Xiaomi doesn't use great microphones. So this will be a noticeably cheaper phone than most of those flagships that cost around 800 plus, where this one will be at maybe a starting price of 550, but pretty quickly down to 450 already. I'm sure of that. So, value. It will be one of maybe the best value or bang for buck flagships phones. But it won't be a proper flagship, because those just deliver better resolution, better speakers, maybe better software, and after all a better camera. And that's alone, just the camera, usually a thing where people are willing, like we've seen on the Google, to pay 400 extra just to get that better camera. Okay, that's off the table. The next thing, quickly, HTC, we haven't really heard anything of their new phone yet, so I'm not going to really discuss that yet. Sony, XZ4, we've heard that it will be a 21:9 display, which is something that I'm definitely not going to put on my list up high, because I'm not a fan of 19:9 phones, but definitely not going for 21:9, especially since Sony's not known for their great ergonomics. I mean, they last year actually finally figured out an amazing display. They finally figured out a very good speaker. The battery life on the XZ3 due to the high res suffered a little bit, but it was still totally fine. The software got better. The camera was finally, with the XZ2 already, pretty great. And build quality was great, but design ergonomics just not so much. And then the phones are usually quite high priced. So Sony is getting closer in some aspects, but with the 21:9, sorry, they completely lost me. I'm not gonna really judge it until I've actually reviewed it here. But I can already tell you now that it's just not a real contender for my daily driver phone. Which is also the thing for the LG G8. Just because LG phones always kinda hooked me on paper and what I've seen on videos. But once I held it in my hand, there were always things that I found to be wrong. LG G6. Odd design, I didn't like that. The G7 wasn't really that much better. They usually feel a little bit on the cheaper side, a little bit hollow, which is just not quite my thing. The displays were also pretty good always, but never great, and always a little bit off in terms of calibration. Speakers. I mean, this year we will get a speaker with the display. I'm quite actually curious of how this is gonna turn out, because I know how this kind of works on the Sony TVs, on their OLED TVs. But I have to see it yet in action on a phone, so until that I'm just gonna not say much. But even the G7 had a pretty nice and loud speaker, but it wasn't a high quality sound speaker, and the boombox feature was a gimmick for me, so let's just drop that. Performance will be totally fine. Battery life, even though on the G series it got usually weaker over the generations, the last ones, I don't expect to be great, but it should be fully fine. That should be still be better than good enough. And then software that I'm okay with during a review period, but not as my daily driver over a longer extended period. And the camera is great for everyone who wants a manual phone, but I usually just want to use it automatic, and that's where LGs aren't all that great, so let's ditch that. Now, before I'm getting into the OnePlus 7, that until a few weeks ago was on my list as my daily driver, or the Samsung Galaxy S10, I think the OnePlus lost that place. But let's get to the Samsung now first, because then the OnePlus will make more sense. Okay, here's the thing. S10. Costs around 899 euros. S10 Plus costs around 999. And there are a few reasons, actually pretty much one on each side, why I want one or the other. I want the S10 because it is the slightly smaller one. After all, I prefer a slightly smaller phone. 6.1 inches with that design seems to be that sweet spot. But the S10 Plus brings one thing to the table that makes me want to have the S10 Plus. It's the battery life. 4,100 milliamp hours compared to 3,400, and we only have a 0.3 inch bigger display, so it will make up for the bigger display more than in terms of battery life. So I mean, the Note 9 already had pretty good battery life with an even ever so slightly bigger battery and the more efficient SoC. Even though I'm talking about the Exynos here, the battery life on the S10 Plus should be really good. Well, the S10 has now a 400 mAh bigger battery than the S9 had, but the S9 in the Exynos version last year that I had did not really fully convince me. Now, if I think about maybe getting about an hour more of battery life this year with the S10 over the S9, that would get just about into that territory where it's more than good enough and totally fine. Because the thing is that I didn't really give it much praise last year, mostly because of the battery life. And I said, that's a disappointing part for me. But if I just think about how much I use a phone personally, if I'm not reviewing a phone, then the S9 at all times actually would have been good enough. Absolutely. Because I usually don't use my phone that much. But what I always wanted to have are those reserves that if I have a heavier day, if I'm on a longer trip or whatever else, where I just use the phone a little bit more intense, then the S9 was barely holding on. With the S10, that should be gone. So pro for the S10 for me is it's cheaper, it's smaller what I anyways wanted, it has a good enough battery life. The S10 Plus has the bokeh camera on the front, which should allow for live focus and so on. I don't really care about that, and actually that's where the S10 has an advantage overall, because it has only one small cutout and not the pill. But on the Plus, I get the camera, I get the slightly bigger display after all, which is not really a big thing for me, and the better battery life. But here's the issue with why I'm most probably, after all, not gonna get an S9, S10 Plus, just because even though I want a bigger battery, the price. And well, it's 100. If you think about 100 more, you get a second lens on the front, and you get the bigger battery life, or better battery life. That alone would actually be good enough for me, but the issue is that due to corporate benefits, I get 20% off if I buy the phone from Samsung. And right now, if you're pre-ordering it, you get the Galaxy Buds. And this now comes down to this. $899 for the S10, minus 20%, and it's actually a little bit more than 20% due to the Galaxy Buds. For some odd reason, I am at 690 euros. Now, if you would consider 999 for the S10 Plus for 128 gigs and the Galaxy Buds, I would be at 1,000 minus 200, so 20%, I would be at 800, maybe take off 70 euros that I could get for the Buds, and I would be at 730. So let's see, about a little bit over 600, so let's say 620, 630 to 750, so in the worst case scenario, what I would get for the Galaxy Buds. That's just not an option. Because on the Samsung shop here in Germany, you only get the ceramic versions of the S10 Plus, which means 1,250 euros. And I'm not willing to get the 512 gigabyte version because I don't need that. So let's scratch that off the table. Now what I could do is to get the S10 Plus for a similar price is just to wait about 1, 2, at the best, at most 3 months. Because what happened last year here in Germany, the Note 9 was available at 999 euros, and I think like a little bit over a month at best, maybe. It was already down to like 680, 700, so prices fell pretty dramatically. So I could rather wait and get the version with the better battery life that I want, or I'm just gonna jump right onto the ship right now, get the S10, which should give me all that I want after all, and actually smaller compact form factor that I want. So that's where I'm actually mostly thinking about what I should get for. But why actually? Okay, like I said, I don't want to make any compromises on the phone this year. But I don't think the S10 is really making any, because let's think about it. Last year, I'm gonna take the S9 and maybe the Note 9 as a reference here. Build quality will be top notch. We don't really need to discuss that. With the ultrasonic fingerprint reader, it should be better than what we had last year also, so improvements actually. We will get an even better display than we already had last year, which was the best display on the market with the Note 9. So top. High res. Yeah, display is fantastic. Speakers, I mean, if they are just about as good as on the S9 or on the Note 9, I am super happy because those were one of my like top 3 speakers of last year. Performance, also great because Note 9, totally fine. I was happy with that one, and with the new Exynos should be even better. So also here, like I said, battery life with the S10 Plus, I'm gonna say I would be very, very happy. But even with the S10, I expect to be at least happy enough. Like I said, the whole good enough thing. But that's the only thing. That's, I think, the weakest part of this phone on the regular S10. On the S10 Plus, this is actually a stronger part already. Software, I mean, ever since, like, I think the S8, I liked Samsung's UI a lot. Because it worked out pretty good. Never had any issues. We got a lot of great features. Theming engine. Okay, bloat and all those kind of things. But those never really bothered me. And then the camera. We will get a great front-facing camera, especially for video with autofocus, which is a thing that actually I would maybe even use this time because I thought about making kind of more like vloggy videos in terms of that style, and I wanted that to do on the phone because it's just more convenient, but I wanted that with a good quality, and I didn't want to use the main camera because it's just easier to see what I'm doing. So actually for that purpose, the S10 would come in really handy, and I don't need the focus feature. So yeah. Main camera will be, I mean, is anyone really thinking about it? Will be great. The video was on Samsung phones pretty much top 3 always anyways, with, for example, the iPhone, and yeah, Samsung and iPhone are the next two strong. Actually, why I'm saying Samsung and iPhone, if then it would be Apple and Samsung, but I get, you get what I mean. Yeah. And pretty good microphone. So all these things are pretty much as good as it gets at the moment. There is no really better built phone. Design-wise, yeah, we can debate on that. Display, not really something better out there. Speaker, not really similar good, but not really much better or significant or even worth noting. Performance, all flagships of this year will be very, very similar and superb after all. Battery life, that's what I'm saying. What I would say is the weakest part. Software ones, actually the better ones, I would say amongst top 3, in my opinion. And then the camera will be amongst the best. So no sacrifice in the weakest part here with the battery life should be still more than fine. Now, let's talk about why the OnePlus 7 is not really an option for me this year. Well, it's actually pretty similar to the Xiaomi Mi 9 and the whole reasoning of not good enough. Or good enough is not good enough. Okay, so why? I always liked OnePlus's build quality, even though I was not a big fan of the design, as meant the button placement and so on. But I'm okay with that. After all, I've used the OnePlus 5T for over a year, and I was fine with that design. And it should be similar to this once again on the OnePlus 7. But we will get on one of the pretty much only flagship phones with a full screen display, no notch, no anything, because it's pretty much sure that it will have a periscope camera, so a sliding out forward mechanism. Sliding out forward, yeah, forget that. That is great for all those who don't ever use the camera anyways. Okay, a little bit less convenient for face unlock because the camera would have to slide out, but the fingerprint reader should be even better this year, so that is fine. But the thing is just that a lot of people want water resistance or some kind of waterproofing. And I mean, officially OnePlus never had it, even though it kind of was still after all. But with this camera, it will be even less of a thing, but that never bothered me. I've never really given any phone a knockoff for that. But the display. OnePlus 7, Full HD AMOLED display, Optic AMOLED, call it whatever you want to. It will be a 1080p. That's pretty much a given by now. Display, like I said, good enough. Maybe more than good enough, but definitely not good enough for me this year. If I'm gonna spend that much money, I want pretty much best, because I watch a lot of YouTube on my phone during breaks or something like that, and I just want to do that in a more high fidelity way. And even though I was always good with 1080p, ever since the OnePlus that had a 1080p display, after like 7 generations by now, nah, sorry. Especially since I had a Samsung Galaxy S7 that back then already had a Quad HD display. I'm not going for a 1080p display this year. The only way that I would go for a 1080p if it would be a 1080p high quality 120 Hz display. That's the only way. But that's most likely not gonna happen, just as much as a dual speaker system is not gonna happen on the OnePlus 7. Once again, I'm pretty sure it will be bottom firing. No need to discuss that. Not good enough for me anymore. Good enough though. Performance will be top notch, absolutely. Battery life should be better than on the S10, at least on the S10 Plus. I'm not quite so sure, because 1080p with, I would say, about the 3700 mAh battery should be great. The software, the best. Not gonna really get into that. And then the camera, that pretty much similar to the Xiaomi Mi 9, will be very, very good, but just not the best of the best camera. No matter how they improve every year, they still have this kind of little bit of a gap that they are never able to close. So Xiaomi 9 and OnePlus 7 will be the best bang for buck flagships under like 600. But also, let's think about that. If you're telling me now, okay, an S10, if you don't get it on rebate, or if you want to buy now, and that's what I actually didn't like so much, that so many people compared the Note 9 or a Samsung 9 Plus as a $900 or $1,000 or euro phone compared to something like a OnePlus that is a 550 euro phone, because the actual difference in real life with street prices is way, way closer. Because this phone, after a month or a month of two, or let's say like after 3 months, half a year, will still cost the same as the price it will get released with, because OnePlus doesn't really offer their phones for cheaper. And I would expect the OnePlus 7 to cost this year at least 600 euros, if not 650. So let's say 600 to give it the benefit of the doubt. I expect actually maybe like 650 this year, but let's say 600. That's what it's gonna cost all the time, unless you maybe get it from Gearbest, where it will be maybe a 100 euro cheaper. But let's say 600, and that's why I'm actually already taking this into equation, because I'm thinking 650, but a lot of people are still able to buy it imported in some way for maybe 550, 500. So let's say safe way 600. The S10, or let's go from the actual more expensive one, S10 Plus, that is 999. I'm just gonna say the value that I've seen last year already happening with the Note 9. After about 1 month, it was already down to 700. So let's just expect it to be 700, 750 after a month, maybe 2 at best. I don't think it will need much more time to actually go more competitive. Okay, 650, let's say 600 to 750, even if it's a difference from 150 euros, even though I would actually expect to more like 100 on real street prices after a short while. Okay, what do you get for 100 more or 150 even? You get a better display, you get a better speaker system, you get the better camera. I mean, those three things, just taking the last one, the camera, is one thing that you've seen on Google's site. A lot of people being being kind of willing to pay 400 more for, because that's the price that I see the Google Pixel XL last year. I mean, it was, in my opinion, a $400 less worthy phone, but that much priced because of the camera. Without that camera, that phone would have been worth 300 at least less. So if people are willing to pay 300, 400 more just for the camera, the difference of 150 for that better camera with, that's for sure, the better speaker and display. I mean, that actually, even though I would say that the best bang for buck phones, flagships, will be the Xiaomi Mi 7 and the Mi9 and the OnePlus 7. Best bang for buck, best value phones, best affordable flagships. If you just look at pure value, the S10 actually, or S10 Plus, look better because you pay a little bit more. But speaker, display, in some ways maybe build, or even software quality, even though I don't think the software is better, but camera, make it maybe even a better value. But this is what I wanted to discuss with you. Let me know in the comments, which is your most high-rated contender for your flagship this year, or which phone are you most interested in? And obviously there are a lot of that ones that I didn't even call, like HTC, since we don't know much about them. Maybe something like a Xiaomi Mi Mix that will come soon, or maybe an Oppo or an Vivo, or brands that I didn't even think about. But if I just look at what's coming soon, I think already Samsung with the S10 or S10 Plus set the bar so high already at the beginning of the year that it will hold that level up until the Note 10. But that's just my speculation. We will gonna see what's gonna happen, and I'm definitely all phones I'm gonna give them all a fair try, starting from the Mi9 that will come in soon, the S10, HTC, Sony, and so on. And later on, I can definitely tell you what's the best phone. And even if I buy the S10, I'm not gonna just let it win because it will be my daily driver. Maybe at that point, because I don't care. The better phone at that point will get the better rating. But until that, we have some time we can spend on discussing this whole thing. So let's get into the comments and let me know what you think. Okay, until next time.